Packers fans clamoring for more competition at cornerback should be happy with Brian Gutekunst and his staff for double dipping at the position in the 2026 NFL Draft. After taking Brandon Cisse in the second round, the Packers took a swing on another corner by taking Alabama's Domani Jackson in the sixth. Jackson has been a name NFL scouts have likely been keeping tabs on since high school, coming out of the prestigious Modern Day in California as a 5-star recruit and top 15 player in the 2022 high school class. Despite that top-tier pedigree and a state title in California in the 100-meter dash, a severe knee injury derailed Domani's college career before it even began, sidelining him for his senior season of high school before re-injuring the same knee during his freshman year at USC. Jackson eventually got back into playing shape and transferred to Alabama in 2024, where he became a key part of the Tide's secondary over the last couple of years, generating 10 pass breakups and a pair of interceptions over 28 games. A lack of top-tier production, along with splitting playing time this past season at Alabama, dinged Jackson's draft stock, but he was still able to hear his name called on day 3 thanks to a pre-draft process that included a trip to the Shrine Bowl and some solid athletic testing that included a 4.41 in the 40-yard dash. While Jackson never got back to his 5-star pedigree at the college level, the Packers are hoping that they can develop him into that kind of player again with time. So let's dive into the tape from Alabama's 3 postseason games this past season to show Packers fans the kind of player they're getting in Domani Jackson in today's final Packers rookie preview over here at Best Available. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube if you're not already, and give us a follow on socials at Best Available YT. Huge thank you to all of our members who continue to support us over here. We really appreciate it. We are diving into some positional previews and a classroom series starting in June. So if you are trying to learn more about the game or have friends or loved ones trying to learn more about it, send them a link to our channel because we'll be going over those starting next week with just some basic run concepts and how there's more than just 1 or 2 ways to actually run the football in the modern age of football. So we'll be taking a look at that. But for now, let's dive into the Domani Jackson tape. I came away a little bit more surprised. Diving into 3 different games here for Domani, for again the SEC Championship against Georgia, and then the team's 2 college football playoff games against Oklahoma and Indiana. You're not going to see any interceptions on this tape. I believe he only had 1 this past season. And sometimes people really just want to see those flashy plays. Not all interceptions are created equal. Sometimes they're just really bad throws, things like that. So we're not just here to show you stats or highlights. We are here to show you the kind of player that we're dealing with, starting with this play. And this play, honestly, isn't a whole lot from a result standpoint, but I liked the process. And to me, when I'm evaluating prospects, I care way more about that than the end result. We're going to have motion coming across the formation. We got Domani here, if I can draw correctly, at the bottom of the screen. So we've got Zachariah Branch coming across the formation here. Obviously a main threat on a very funky Georgia offense. We see that motion. Domani's doing a good job communicating with the rest of the defense or the secondary, like, hey, got motion Branch. He's coming out here. Let's adjust our coverage. Let's adjust our coverage. We got a slot blitz coming off the slot. So I'm wondering if Domani's like, hey, you should not be blitzing anymore. We've got 2 over here. We're losing numbers on this side. This is a real issue that you're going. So that's probably what he's communicating here. If I had to guess, I'm not going to confirm that or just, say it solidly because we never know. Always an important part of this channel. We never know for sure what they're communicating. But what I like here, this ends up just being kind of like a screen, right? We're going to block here and then get the ball to Zachariah Branch, give him a lead blocker. So Domani feels that. He's going to trigger downhill. And what I like here, as a corner, this is always really tricky. You've got to take on a block in a screen game. Your entire job in this context is you've got to keep outside contained and you've got to be physical with this blocker. You can't get washed out. That's exactly what Domani does here. This is probably not good technique. Not launching his hips with his hands, kind of like coming in, awkward angle here. That's not a very powerful angle to take on a block with your back arched like that. But I appreciate the physicality here. He's trying his best to hold that outside and, kind of loses the point of attack. Then he's kind of going to the ball carrier. All of this, I actually think he does a good job of. I think the problem is we're not supposed to be blitzing here, it looks like, because we're losing that numbers advantage. And Domani feels that with this motion. You see him pointing it out because now he's just kind of left out in an island. So now it's requiring the rest of the defense because of that blitz to flow over, and there's just too much space. Domani cannot occupy all of this. So he's trying to do his best to take on this block, and then the rest of the defense needs to get over against a guy that's a true speed threat. So wanted to point this out because I appreciate the willingness to take on that block, when you're in kind of a lose-lose situation, but more importantly, the pre-snap communication to realize like, hey, we've got 2 over here now instead of just 1. Really need you to call off that blitz, buddy. I'm going to need some help out here. The Packers and Jonathan Gannon are likely going to run a lot of quarters coverage. That's just historically what Gannon has run throughout his NFL career as a defensive coordinator and head coach. And I know that he's saying that, we're just going to play to our players, but it's just kind of what he's doing, and I don't blame him. But I will say, Domani Jackson, some of my favorite tape I watched from these 3 games is when he's a cover 2 flat corner. What I'm talking about, typically you have cover 2, you have 2 high safeties, 1 in front of my big head, not just circling my head on purpose. So you've got 2 high safeties, just covering back here. Then we're going to have our corners typically sit in the flat. And so they are trying to stay underneath so they can trigger downhill on anything short and then try and, back up and, jump into throwing lanes behind them. So that's kind of the theory. And then you hear whole shot on cover 2, which is typically we have the corner sitting flat, safety over the top, and then we've got this little bit of space that you want to throw into, or the whole shot. So that's just a brief explanation of cover 2, but we've got Domani as this cover 2 flat defender here. So he's going to get into the flat very quickly. He's going to, just be reading the quarterback's eyes. He feels this receiver getting behind him. That's not his responsibility. He needs to stay in the flat. And then as soon as he feels like, hey, this quarterback is going at this check down right here, we need to attack. And he does that, and boom, lays the lumber on that hit. Absolutely love to see stuff like this, man. This is what we want from our flat defenders, man. You want to read the quarterback's eyes, trigger quickly, and that is a clean stick. That too many guys want to throw their shoulder in there. What I love about this stick right here is he's throwing down, getting low, wrapping at those hamstrings and bringing his legs through contact. Now, he's not driving his legs totally, but he's so dang low on that play that, he just kind of wraps those hamstrings in two-legged takedowns. Takedowns? That's messing me up. But anyway, two-legged takedown on the guy. Watch it one more time. I love the instincts here, dropping into that flat and then triggering downhill, making that hit. That is excellent work. I love stuff like that from a flat defender. I want my cornerbacks to be able to play the run, man, and it's not always pretty with Domani, but he does give good effort, and that that's really all you can ask for sometimes. You're not going to see him. He's off screen currently right here. And in these condensed formations, you see how close these wide receivers are to the offensive line, really scrunching in everything. You want to put defensive backs in conflict typically with this, right? You want to be able to run at them more easily, put them in disadvantageous situations, maybe pull offensive linemen towards them. All kinds of stuff you can do with, condensed formations, especially if you're a physical team that wants to run the football or you have athletic tight ends. There's a lot you can do with this stuff. So Domani's going to come off the screen. We're going to run his direction to our right. So you can see this, we've got some eye candy here going across the formation, got a puller coming across the formation, trying to, have these linebackers hesitate for a brief second. But what I appreciate about Domani, he's reading the end around. He's all of a sudden like, I'm not going to be able to pursue that. Let me just shuffle straight down the line with my shoulders square. We don't want to let this running back bounce outside because we got too greedy, started cheating that end around. Because the second he gets too far inside or turns his shoulders, this running back can bounce it outside. So love that he's also taking his shoulders square to the line of scrimmage. If he's cheating those inside, it's pretty simple if you think about it. Like if you're just sitting in your desk or standing watching this, whatever you're doing, turn your hips in one direction and then think about having to flip those hips and then run the other way. Or instead, if you're just square and have to turn and run the other way, that's that split second that really matters when you're playing, the highest level of college football or in the NFL. That's why it's so important to keep your shoulders square so you don't have to flip your hips and shoulders and start pursuing. So love the technique there and discipline. And then as he realizes, no longer a threat to bounce outside, this guy's just going downhill. I'm going to start cheating a little bit and then just throw myself into his legs, get the stop. This is all really nice disciplined stuff for a guy that isn't really the biggest corner. It's not like he's small. He's 194 pounds, but I just love the effort here, man. Like just the willingness to, get your nose dirty on a play like this, but also stay disciplined to prevent that outside, bounce. It's a really nice play by Domani. Another really nice example of Domani trusting his eyes in flat coverage. So now we've got him at the top of the screen this time. We're going to throw a couple vertical routes out of him. I think the tight end, one of these wide receivers is going. You're going to see we've actually got 3. So we've got, here, wheel route, coming across the formation. It looks like a lot's going deep, right? So Domani, even as a flat defender, it happens all the time. These flat defenders see multiple vertical routes, and they're like, well, I just got to keep gaining depth to help get in the way of this. So he's starting to gain a little bit more depth. He knows where the sticks are right here. And then he's just like, well, there's a guy creeping out here. So what he's doing, you can see, he's not really worried about the receiver. He's looking at that quarterback's eyes the whole way, staying disciplined. Then all of a sudden he sees the quarterback's shoulders turn towards the running back. And you can see he's planting off this foot going, these vertical threats are no longer my problem. I'm reading the QB's eyes. He's going for this check down thinking he has all of this space. And instead, Domani does a great job breaking down on that, getting as close as possible, open field tackle, wrap up. Instead of being a potential 7-8 yard gain, it's 2 because of the eyes from Jackson. Shows up just time and time again from him in these flat coverages. He just has really good eyes. Feel those vertical routes, but keep those eyes on the quarterback. Feel the check down, break down on it. It's exactly what we need from our quarterback or cornerback in flat responsibilities. Domani had a really nice game in Georgia. Can't say the same totally against Oklahoma and Indiana in the playoff. And you'll see some good in here, but we're going to talk about a couple of nitpicks as well. There's a reason he's a 6th-round pick besides the injury history. So we've got Domani here, and I wanted to show this one because I'm pretty sure it's just a coverage breakdown. We're going to have 2 vertical routes coming across the formation, right? Just to put, stress on these. I think it's 3 high defenders back here. Let me move this screen a little bit. Yeah, we've got 3 high defenders, and then these 2 are going to react to these vertical routes on the field side or the wide side of the field. How this is going to work, we're going to fake like a bubble screen by this guy and then run these 2 vertical routes. Now, it would make sense as we roll this. As we roll this defender is going to cover the number 3 receiver from the sideline, and then Domani's going to stay over the top vertically of the number 1. And then we just have this defender, staying home and honest here. Not exactly sure what the coverage responsibilities are here, but this is where I get a little bit confused because it feels like both Domani and this, safety are both worried about the number 3 receiver from the sideline. Because as we get vertical, he's coming across the formation and Domani's eyes are still on him. And I'm just a little confused as to why that is the case, because as we run this other guy's still vertical, and we're just so focused on this number 3 that this guy has all of this cushion. And he breaks and just starts running his post. Still an awful lot of cushion here. And Domani's still focusing on that other route coming across the formation. And a better throw here as this receiver just kind of sits down. And this is a really dangerous play. I want to know what the responsibilities are here. I'm curious if this number 2 running like the fake sweep messes up Domani's eyes. Maybe he loses count of the numbers here of who's going. And maybe he's like, I have number 2. I'm not entirely sure what happens here, but I did think it was odd. I was like, why are you and your responsibilities so focused on this receiver and not the one that was on your side of the field going vertically? Now, maybe Domani has single high responsibilities, but that would feel odd for a corner to have that. Got a lot of questions that I can't answer, but I think from my best guess, and again, I'm not going to try to assume I know anything, this feels like a coverage mess up by Domani that leads to a guy being open that, could have been a much worse situation if that throw gets completed. This is kind of a tough situation for Domani because I appreciate his effort. It's going to be an inside run. We're going to blitz this slot, and Domani's going to try and hustle and get to this play. The problem is when a play bounces out, he needs to hold outside, contain, and let the rest of the defense flow, especially with that slot defender blitzing, because you can see him going, and then suddenly Domani's like, well, I want to help out. And again, totally appreciate the effort here. The problem is, unless you're just going like ASAP and getting around this block, we're going to have an issue if you're just not doing that. Because now all of a sudden, you've just gone from, like inside the numbers all the way to the hash. You've not fully committed. You're letting that blocker stick around. And now he's just kind of easily sealing you off. And because of that slot blitz not getting home, this running back can bounce out and Mateer, not the running back. It's a quarterback keep. Mateer has all the space in the world because you kind of just cheated inside and let yourself get sealed off. And again, I can appreciate you wanting to help out on the play and try and make something happen. But in a situation like this, you're either firing ASAP and getting away from that blocker as fast as possible, or you're fighting closer and then you're fighting back outside to allow the rest of the defense to flow over. Because this is where he screws himself up. This is not where we want to be with this quarterback and all this space out here. If anything, if you recognize this fast enough, work back outside. Try and funnel Mateer back in and let one of these guys coming across the formation, not a lot of options, unfortunately, but let one of those guys try and funnel him back, inside as he holds outside contain. This one isn't really like a huge knock on him because, again, I appreciate the effort. It's just when you got to be more decisive with it or you're going to get yourself in trouble, like in this exact situation. Happens from time to time. This is a really nitpicky one in my opinion, but I had to show it so you can get a better explanation of why this ended up being a big run. Tough situation for Domani here. We've got him at the top of the screen. We're going to have a route coming across the formation here, and Domani's going to read it and break down on it kind of well. He's like, oh, hey, I see this. It ends up being kind of like a delayed screen, so we're going to break down on it. Here's the problem with this. As he's getting down here, he gets too far of an inside angle, and you can see suddenly he's caught flat-footed. That's a real issue. He allows, the running back to bounce outside of him, and it's almost a touchdown if that guy keeps his balance. Now, here's what we need to do in this situation to prevent this being an even bigger play as we roll this. This should be a two-man corral, and that's usually one of the easier plays you can make as a defender, where both guys are focused on outside contain here, right? We both want to make sure we're protecting that outside hip, outside shoulder, not letting them get outside of us so that he can't bounce out either way. But as we're going through this, just two-man corral, both hold outside contain so that he cannot break outside. And so the closer and closer he gets to these two ball carriers, we can get closer and closer, and then ultimately both wrap him up for a combined tackle. Instead, he gets so eager here that he just cheats just a little bit inside, and all of a sudden that running back wins the outside battle. When you have two defenders that can stop a guy, this is the exact opposite of what we want, because instead of a routine play, suddenly they're right near the goal line. That's just a big no-no in open field tackling situations. You don't have to be the one guy that has to make the play, especially if you feel your teammate by you. Just use that two-man corral to bring him down. We've been a bit nitpicky in this Oklahoma game, man, but one of the things I just love about him is the effort. Like, it's still showing up throughout this game. Not having his best performance, couple missed assignments. Some of them aren't even a lack of effort, right? Like that one from the Mateer keeper where he just ends up getting sucked too far inside. This is a great example of where effort is going to reward you. The football gods will eventually reward you with great effort. We're just going to have a drag route across the formation. Domani's just going to straight up haul ass across the field on this play, and I just love this. He's going to feel that drag route. We're going to use this defender or other receiver to get in his way, make it a harder angle. But he takes the right angle here and just effort. He is just full head of steam, full effort, going go, 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 go. By the time that ball's finally thrown, he's meeting him right at the catch point. Ends up only being a couple of yards on the play. And this would seem like a routine play, just given the circumstance. Like, hey, a few yard gain, it's a completion, whatever. But I just love the absolute intensity and effort by him to come all the way across the field from here, take the right angle on that drag route, feel it. That's just perfect. Just effort, high effort football to come all the way, like literally the entire opposite side of the field on a drag route where you gave up a ton of cushion. And in most circumstances, that could be a really dangerous play. But he just gives great effort, ends up making this a very negligible play, prevents the first down. This is the kind of stuff I love, man. You can fix and coach up a lot of this stuff, but when you're wired this way to just go all the way across the field on that, like I got to give you props. It's a great play. I'm wondering if Domani got coached up on the two-man corral after that one play earlier, because we're going to run a now screen to his side real quick, right? You have lead blockers. Now Domani's here on the outside, and he's going to focus the whole time. Shoulder square, head on the outside shoulder of Deion Burks. Let the rest of the teammates corral him. He is more than focused on it this time. He is just staying there, and then we get the perfect situation of it. Teammate gets over. He's on the outside shoulder. We both make contact, and man, Deion Burks gets punished for meeting both of these defenders in the hole. This is a much better job by Domani with that two-man corral. He's the unblocked defender. You do not want to let Burks get outside of you. He is, can be a dangerous threat in open space. Instead here, he stays coachable and does exactly what we needed from that last example. This is what we need in the result of what a corral looks like, because Burks still takes a pretty punishing shot because of it. Only got a few plays from the Rose Bowl, unfortunately for Alabama, but fortunately for me as an IU grad. This game did not go the way the Crimson Tide wanted to. Ended up being a blowout. They pull all the starters by the end of the game, but few plays we can still look at. And I wanted to show some example of Domani's probably not the most fluid corner. I wouldn't really trust him totally as like a man coverage role. But from a back pedal, man, like he shows some good explosiveness and some good quickness in that back pedal. So just he's gonna be on Surratt. He's gonna have a nice quick back pedal. Watch how quick his feet are, and then he's gonna trigger at the route stem with good explosiveness. Just wanted to show you his movement skills here. Back pedal, nice trigger there. And it's not a lot because again, double moves could give him trouble. Playing straight up man can give him trouble. But when he's just reacting off a route stem and breaking downhill, he's got enough quickness in his back pedal on top of that explosiveness where he can be an effective zone coverage corner. I really like whenever the play is in front of him because he does have enough explosiveness out of his transition or out of the snap or in the flat where he can explode downhill and react to stuff underneath. Feels like a more suitable role for him, whether he's a flat defender or a deep zone coverage guy, just reacting off the route. Again, just a little rigid when he is playing straight up man. So I would much prefer a role like this where he can do stuff like this and be effective in coverage against stuff that is just happening in front of his eyes. Man, this one looked so good at first and then ends up being really frustrating. We're going to end up just running to this side. Let me get my big ass head out of the way. We're going to run to this side. And Domani's going to feel, push crack by Elijah Surratt. So he's going to have an unblocked path to the running back. And his instincts are right at first. He feels that push crack and he's just triggering downhill to get close to the line of scrimmage, fill outside contain. But then he just starts getting a little hesitant here. I just wish if he had just gone full head of steam and just tried to dive at this running back. Suddenly we're not giving up outside contain because the angle's a little funky. He starts getting a little hesitant about making contact. Then he just loses that corner. That's exactly what we don't want in this situation. He does everything right getting up to the line of scrimmage, but then you can see he just starts hesitating a little bit. And if he just feels it's an outside run and just comes from outside in, knows that he has outside contain and just like uses his momentum to bring the ball carrier down, I'd be okay with him even whiffing in that situation. I'd prefer that and making some contact on the ball carrier than this hesitancy and giving up the corner. That part's where I get a little frustrated because he does the first half of this play post snap correctly and triggering downhill. It's just as soon as he starts getting a little hesitant there, that's where he gets himself in trouble. Last one of the day, and there's not a ton here, but this is just a good example, man. Like you've always got to keep your self in a play, even when you're washed out of a play. Domani and this wide receiver just kind of wrestling now near the sideline. This play could be over for Domani. Could have just stopped it. But he gets back on the field and still makes a play here. He punches that football. He gets back in the field of the play, and then he punches at this football and ends up getting it out. And, it obviously bounces out of bounds. Momentum carries it out of bounds. But this is such a small thing, but it matters. Is doing stuff like this, why not go for the football? I know that you got put to the sideline. I've seen so many players get to the sideline. They got bullied by a receiver. They kind of pout. They kind of take the play off. Like, my teammates will get the quarterback. But instead he gets back on the field and punches it. At least he's trying something. You never know with a football where it's going to bounce. Maybe it bounces into play and then bounces backwards. Like, you can't assume where the ball's going to go if you strip it out. And I really appreciated this play, as small as it is and kind of insignificant, that he just gives this effort to like get back into the field of play and punch at that football, just not knowing what might happen. It's just something I appreciate as far as like, the way he's wired. And again, that's not going your way, that he's still at least just trying to do stuff. It's not always pretty. There's stuff to work on, but I do like a lot of what I saw from Domani, and boy, is he wired the right way. As a former 5-star, and hopefully he's just has a clean bill of health, and the effort that he gives, if we can just coach him up, this feels like a player that over time can end up being a pretty reliable option. Maybe not for like a 10, 15-year starter. I think that's a little unrealistic for a 6th-round pick, but I do think he can give some good competition in this cornerback room. Hope you enjoyed the finale of the Packers rookie preview series. I hope you enjoyed the series as a whole. Just because this is over doesn't mean that we will be done with Packers content. I might dip my toes into some of the undrafted guys as well. Just take a little peek. I heard there's a couple guys I should actually pay attention to. So we might do some bonus episodes of this series, but there's plenty of other stuff down the road. Weekly positional previews for the draft. It's going to be a really good draft, folks. So just buckle in for that. There's all kinds of content we're doing this summer. So stay tuned, subscribe if you're not already. And if you continue to support the channel for, weeks, months, even years, consider becoming a member. Again, details to that in the episode description. Huge thank you to everyone that watched, and we will see you later this week.